Welcome to the Fearless Happiness Podcast, where we showcase phenomenal individuals who have overcome serious traumas, life obstacles, and challenges to find their own path to fearless happiness. Listen as Max Njist invites guests from all around the world to share their experiences and spread strength, hope, and faith. This is the Fearless Happiness Podcast, and this is Max Njist.
All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Max coming back to you. But this time I got to say, with really amazing and special guests. I've had Tiffany on here before, and now I got her husband, and we're going to have a great conversation today. But you know how I like to do it, Tiffany, and well, you'll find out, Chris. Please introduce yourself to my audience, like what you do, who you are, what you do, and then we are going to rock and roll.
Okay, so what I want to do first is remind your listeners to subscribe to this channel, like it, share it. Being on a mission to share like Max's is super important, and I think people forget to do that. So before you forget, please subscribe to this channel and share it and spread the message. That's for you because I know how important this is for you.
Well,
But it's a lot of freaking work. So yeah. When someone asks me that question, I want to just kind of jump in and say all the things I've overcome. But what I am today is not who I was 3.5 years ago. Today, I'm empowered. I am the woman that God created me to be. I have been sober for almost 4 years. I'm a fitness coach, a life coach. I'm an author, a mother of 4, and now a grandmother, and a wife. And I am someone that I never thought I could possibly be.
That's
You
good.
know, I love it. And I'll real quick. I got to meet Tiffany first, and then she says, "Hey, I got to introduce you to my husband." And now I have a great friend in Chris. Since we met, we did this thing. I kind of flaked on him, but he understood. But we have become good friends over the time that we have met. So go ahead, Chris. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, we've had some really great conversations. We've kind of peeled back the layers and had opportunity to really be raw with one another, and I value that a lot. So I'm Chris, Tiffany's husband. I'm a carpenter, general contractor, by day and by night, and on the evenings maybe with her. We kind of co-coach people. She's got her main coaching program, but we also really specialize in helping couples kind of unpack what's going on and step into their greatness. And I'm really focused more on obviously the men, because I believe that men, they're not broken, they've just been misprogrammed. And so I'm on a mission to kind of help break the code and really help them step into their power and help them realize that they're sovereign and that masculinity is not toxic when done properly.
You know, I couldn't agree more, right? Like when I see that stuff about this toxic masculinity, I gotta laugh. I'm like, are you like, how can that be toxic? I mean, maybe there is, but like the friends I know, like yourself, and you know what I mean? I don't see it. I just see men being men, trying to take care of their families, right? Make sure, you know, as they say, bring home the bacon, put a roof over their heads, feed their families, and just be the best that they can be every day, right? If that's toxic, then sign me up, because
All right.
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But here's everybody, you know, this is going to be a great conversation, right? Because I gotten to know them, and we were just talking about this before the podcast, right? Is, you know, mean what you say and say what you mean. But these guys also, like, I've watched them, you know, through Facebook, obviously, because they live in Texas. But they walk the walk and talk the talk. They're both in great shape. Like you know, Tiffany, I gotta say, like when I watch her do her stadiums, I'm like, man, like I'm not coming around here because she's gonna make me look like, you know what. And it's funny because I have a story, like when I got into CrossFit, you know, before a while back, I was in there like on, you know, talking to the guy who runs the place, and he's, oh yeah, come try it, right? Like no problem. And here comes this girl that walks in, right? And she's a CrossFit pro. Like I would see later that her name's all over the place, right? Like all these years she's done CrossFit, and well, of course, and she's in great shape. And I looked at him and I'm going, I don't know if this is for me, bro. Because if I got to work out next to her, I'm gonna look like silly over here. Don't let her phase you, man. But I love like your guys' energy, right? Because you carry that into your marriage, you carry that into your family, and I know what it's like to be a grandparent. It's so much fun, right? Now you guys get to spoil your grandchild, right? Like when
Right.
dad says no more, you get to say, yeah, come over here. I'll give you a little bit more, right? Here's a little candy before you go home. You know what I mean? But like I did with Tiffany, we're going to talk, Chris, about like those challenges in your marriage, right? And how you overcome those so that, like you said, you can be better, be the best version of yourself that you can be, not only for for yourself, but for your family. I don't care who goes first, but usually I go ladies first. So Tiffany, we're going to give it to you.
Yeah. So, first, if you're listening, I really want you to remove distractions and really lean in because we're starting out kind of light and we're playful, but our story is very inspiring. And the trauma that I have personally overcome and that Chris has walked with me through, which is not an easy task, is so powerful. So, if you're in recovery, if you have a family member that's in recovery, if you're thinking about being in recovery, we will probably say something that could possibly change your life.
Mm.
Right.
So,
And that's not from ego. That's like real life.
because
Yeah.
that's our mission now, and um, it's so important for us to share, to keep what we have, and to continue to grow. But if we can be inspiration and hope for those struggling, whether it's women with fitness and nutrition or marriages, blended marriages, that you have stepkids because we're not each other's first marriage, but we've been married 15 years. And my journey of recovery started in my 20s, but then I had some relapses and I just kept going back to what was comfortable. And that was the only way I knew how to self soothe and live life on life's terms. It was
Right.
to drink or take prescription pills. And I was very, very successful at what I did. And you probably couldn't tell from the outside looking in that most nights of the week I would pray that God would let me go to sleep and not wake up. I was running a 6-figure coaching business. I worked out all the time. I have 4 kids. I was making sure everybody had everything they needed, but I was literally dying inside and I didn't know how to overcome that. And I was managing drinking until I wasn't.
Right. Right.
And I thank God. And if you're at your bottom, or maybe you just, you're at the beginning stages of recovery, congratulations, because rock bottom, as you know, is a great place to be. Great.
I love the gift of desperation. It has kept me around for over 22 years now, right? Like, or
Yeah.
at least it got me on board. See, and I love that for the audience to understand from your point. Now, Chris, being on the other side, right, as the spouse who has to watch his wife, like literally slowly die every day, right? Because you can see it. Like we think we can fool everybody, right? But I've had people walk up and go, Max, you need help. Like you need to go. I mean, I had 2 guys before I got sober, 2 big ex-convicts tell me, if you don't get help and you come to prison, we're gonna kick the shit out of you because for shits and giggles. So go get right. And that was one of my motivations. Like, well, these 2 dudes, instead of bringing me along to commit more crime, were like, they saw something in me, right? So talk about that for you, Chris, in your marriage, like when you were watching Tiffany like slowly go down, as they say, the drain, right? And that journey, because it's as hard for you as it is for us, because it's hard when it's a loved one and you can't, that powerlessness that they talk about in 12-step meetings is that part when you can't do anything, but you see it happening and you're like, how do I help? So how was that for you, Chris?
Well, so that's one of the things you and I talked about after we got to know each other and Tiffany was on your podcast is the codependent. And there's not a lot of people talking about my side. because for every addict, I learned there's a codependent. And when I heard that label, I was like, I'm not a codependent. But when she went to treatment, I had to listen to a series of lectures before I could go see her and do family day. And I learned a lot of really great information. And I was like, oh my God, I am a codependent. And so I appreciate this opportunity to share my side. And so, yeah, it really was tough because I always knew that Tiffany was born for greatness. And I don't say that in a cheesy way, but literally there was always something that I could see in Tiffany that was truly magical. I knew that she had the ability to transform lives, and I knew that she was called to do that. We didn't know what container we were going to be placed in to make that possible, but the greatest gift that she was given was that rock bottom. And the hardest thing that I had to do, and I don't want to get emotional, was to tell her I was going to leave. And I can remember it like it was yesterday, sitting in that hospital room, leaning over while she had all this stuff hooked to her body because she tried to commit suicide by taking a shit ton of Advil, right?
Right.
No. And I said, look, the bottom line is if you don't get help, I'm out. I'm
Yeah.
leaving and I'm taking the boys with me. And I meant it. I really did. It wasn't a hollow threat. And the part was I had to land on that for myself.
Yeah.
And that was so incredibly hard, is giving that ultimatum. But it was also what Tiffany needed. She really needed to hear that because I was so used to walking on eggshells and pacifying her and just going along to get along. And I even found myself drinking the way she would drink so I could keep up. Like, I'm not an addict. I can literally drink a beer or whatever and be fine. But I found myself jumping into her world to keep up, just
Yeah.
to pacify.
Right.
That's really hard. And I would say to anyone listening, the ultimatum was the sweet spot. And then walking the journey with her. And what I mean by that is when she stops, that means I stop too.
Right.
Drinking.
That's right. And I get to participate in her transformation. It's not I have to, I get to.
Yeah, I love that. Right. I get to is so important. And I'm sorry for cutting you off, Chris, but I totally get your point, right? Because my wife, she's not an alcoholic or an addict, but when we got married, she just decided I'm not doing it anymore either, right? It's like, I mean, she'll go out with her friends once in a great while and have a couple drinks or with coworkers, right? And go have a beer, but not, she's like, it doesn't even interest me anymore, right? And I can relate. And I learned, and my friends used to ask me in my 12-step meeting, did your mom go to like Al-Anon? I go, why? Because that story you tell where my mom visited me in the jail last time, right? And I told Tiffany about this, right? She says, before I could give her an empty promise, she says, I love you, son, but you're no longer welcome at my home. If you come near my home, I will call the police. And if I'm not home and they see you near my house, the neighbors are going to call the police. What are you going to do? Right. And yeah, my eyes went, I don't know. And she starts crying, right? And she says, I'm like, why are you crying? You get to go home. I got to go back to my cell. And she says, well, that was the best answer I've ever heard you give me in her thick Dutch accent, right? And I'm like, wow, okay. But and then I've had to, like you, I've had that same experience with my children who have experienced addiction, right? They're all, well, I don't know about my oldest daughter, but my son and my baby girl I was telling you who just had the twins are sober now. And man, like, talk about codependency. It took me a long time to learn. And I'm so thankful for my wife for teaching me how to hold boundaries, right? Because if I tell my kid, hey, dad, I need a couple bucks, no, I'm not doing it. And they would use the guilt trip. And then I would fold like like a quesadilla, right? Like I am that, and she would look at me and go, "God, that was easy." You know what I mean? Like, but no, you got to do this. And now I've learned, right? Like I don't let that. It's a journey, right? For all of us,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? Whether you're the one who is recovering, or the spouse who has to watch, your spouse or your children go through that stuff. So Tiffany, as you, right, because you're in the hospital, right, because attempted suicide. And I remember telling my sponsor, well, no, I told a friend, a mentor of mine, I said, I never committed suicide. He goes, yeah, you did. Like, what are you talking about? He goes, every time you put a drink or a drug in your system, you were doing it on the installment plan.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I was like,
Wow.
oh, yeah, maybe I was. But what Tiffany said, I used to do the same thing. I remember if I partied and then I'd finally go to sleep, that prayer before I go to sleep, okay, God, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Just don't wake me up, please.
Mm.
And then
Mm.
I'd wake up again and you're going, wow, he don't listen, does he? Or she or whatever. Like now I got to do this all over again. But I'm going to ask Tiffany now, like, so when you got that ultimatum from Chris, right? I know that had to be tough to hear because, I can relate. What was that moment like for you? I mean, being in the hospital, waking up because it didn't work, all the things that might be going through your head. So what was that like for you that day?
Yeah. So part of me, and just to back up a little bit, when we got married 15 years ago, I had an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old from a previous marriage. By the time I was 29, I'd been married 4 times. I had a history of being in abusive relationships, lots of trauma, sexual abuse, unwanted abortion, lots of trauma as a child all the way up. And I write about that in my book. And when Chris and I got married, he probably didn't realize what he had signed up for.
No.
And I was on really good behavior
She
in the
tricked
beginning.
me.
And we got pregnant with our twins right away. And so there were, he would see glimpses of who I really was and who I could be. And I even donated my liver to a stranger with cancer. So I could not drink if I wanted to.
Right.
But I was at the point where I didn't want to, but I was secretly waiting for something big to happen to help me stop.
Mm.
Because I knew for me, like when God whispers, like I just kind of ignore it. But then if
Yeah.
it becomes a scream, if my back's against the wall, I will shape up immediately. So
Mhm.
it was
Right.
no question. I will do whatever it takes. And I'm grateful that I have that kind of personality. I needed something like that. And because he had never thrown that around with leaving me or
Never.
that was never an option, I knew that he was serious. And I was so tired of fighting. I knew that this was it. There was no question. I had to do whatever it took. And so thank God I was able to get into a treatment center. I got to go to a trauma treatment center, and there were people there that they were not ready, and this was their 3rd or 4th time to be there, and they weren't taking it seriously. They had not hit a big enough bottom, and
Yeah.
and I had been in treatment in my 20s, and no one came to my family day. I had 0 support. So I had done treatment and tried to get sober without any family support, and it did not last long at all.
Right.
So I didn't go back to prescription pills, but I was, drinking a lot, and that was a bit more manageable, I guess you could say.
See, I'm a big believer, as you guys know, I work in the addiction field as a counselor, right? And my belief is the chances of an alcoholic or an addict staying sober or clean is better when there is family support because I've seen it,
Mhm.
right? And I've had those moments so where they're like, okay, we're dropping Junior off. We'll be back in 90 days, fix him. And I'm like, wait a minute, that ain't gonna work. That doesn't work that way.
Mm.
And I've had my experiences where like for instance, I worked at Hoag Hospital, which has a really good, well, they've been around for years, have a very well-known drug and alcohol treatment, right? And they have a family week. It's one of the places that it's not just one day, it's 4 days long where the family, if they're available, pretty much mandatory, you need to come, right? So I had this one kid, right? And I call him a kid, right? Because I'm in my, well, back then I was in my 40s, but still. And dad was a big cop. Like I'm talking over 6'4" and just huge. And we're walking down the aisle and he's like, well, why can't he just quit and stay quit? I'm like, so I was thinking, I'm gonna go, okay, I want you to do this, right? Because in Orange County, we have the Amtrak stations all over the place. I said, I want you to go down to the train station and I want you to sit in front of a train at 5 miles an hour, put your hand up and try to stop it. And he goes, well, eventually it's going to blow me over because it's twice as big as I am. And I go, well, your son's addiction is like the bullet train in Japan at full speed.
Mm.
And he looked at me and he went, I get it now. I get it.
Mm.
Right. As far as I know, that kid is still sober, right? Mom and dad are supporting him. But people need to realize, I think, because you've been through it, you realize when you supported Tiffany, look how far she's come, right? Because it's hard to do that on your own. My mom didn't come to a family week, but she would come to the meetings, right? And take me out to breakfast. And then when I had a couple of my relapses, which I still don't live down today, but anyway, she was sitting in the meeting and they're, oh, are you here for the meeting? And she'd look at him and go, no, I'm here for my son. And then I knew why. That's why my phone was just going off the charts, back then. Like, oh, dang it. She showed up. She's not supposed to show up. She's supposed to let me do what I got to do. But, not everybody relapses and stuff like that. You and I have that experience, Tiffany, and sometimes I kind of roll my eyes when I get those old timers that go, I gave them my first meeting and I haven't touched a drink since. And I will like, whoopee do for you. Like, okay. But I actually, I go, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that works for you. Some of us have to do the research again, right? But so what I want to get into now is, you guys are going through this journey together, right? You're both in recovery. And that's what I always tell the family members. I go, what are you doing for your recovery? And they go, what do you mean? I'm not in recovery. I go, yeah, you are. I go, you've been affected by your addict over here. You need some recovery. Whether that's counseling, therapy, or Al-Anon, but you got to find your community too, right? Like I go, you need your support system when Junior over here or Sissy is like off the charts and you don't know what to do. But if you have that support, you can look at him and go, you can have your tantrum, but I'm going to my meeting over here or whatever, right?
So that's what I've created with my coaching. If I can interject, that's what I have created with my coaching model, because you have where you quit the substance, but then what? Right? So then what does life look like? How do I learn to self-soothe without self-sabotaging? Where are my people, my like-minded people? What are boundaries? What are non-negotiables? How do I get healthy with fitness, nutrition? And so not all of my clients, really hardly any, have a substance abuse problem, but they have a food addiction, or they have shopping addiction, or addiction's addiction. And it's a symptom of something else going on. And so I've been able to pass on what has helped me to them, and it's kind of like AA, really,
Right.
for everybody.
Yeah, and if I might add something, I would like to touch on this for just a moment. For any of the listeners who may be that guy that says, well, why can't they just quit? Because that was once me, right? And so what I had to do was willingly suspend my disbelief and temporarily curve my ego. And I allowed myself to be educated because I did not understand the addiction. I thought it was BS, frankly.
Well, because you saw me be successful at so many other things, why could I not just quit drinking?
Exactly. But when you learn the brain science, you go, oh, okay, they're not broken. They're built different.
Right.
And what I've also realized about addicts is they're extremely intelligent people. And they have not learned how to self-soothe. And so they take a substance instead of figuring out how to use the greatness that they were already given.
Right.
And using that in different ways to channel that intelligence. And so,
or like to quiet the mind or regulate the nervous system.
Exactly.
Using meditation instead of a drink.
Yeah. And that just wanted to touch that for just a moment. If anyone's still wrestling with that fact that, well, why can't they just stop? Give yourself permission to think differently and watch where that takes you.
I couldn't agree more, right? I mean, And Tiffany, you both know I'm a big 12 stepper. I've been going to meetings for over 22 years. Is it for everybody? Absolutely not. That's why I always have to preface everybody out there listening. I'm not pushing 12 steps, but there's a lot of principles that those people like myself live by that can help. It's even in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. These steps could help anybody. It doesn't say just the alcoholic, but that's what I have learned in my practice too. In my private practice is, okay, what's going to work for this person, right? If they tell me over and over, I'm not doing AA. Okay, what I gotta. So it's like you, Tiffany. I gotta work on mind, body, and spirit, right? And however that looks, right? But I am a big proponent on finding what that spiritual aspect is going to be. Is it going to be church? Is it going to be meetings? Is it going to be meditation? Right? And then fitness,
For
right?
some
Like
people, it's my program, my holistic program. That is like their church.
Yeah.
Right?
absolutely, right? Exactly. Find your community, right? Because what I've learned from some of the amazing guests like yourself that have been on here, right? We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Mhm.
And, we crave connection, right? And it's not just, well, I told Tiffany in our last, when she was with me last time, I said there was this um, TED talk from this journalist from England that talks about addiction, and what we know about it is all wrong, right? So at the end, he said, "What's the opposite of addiction?" In the crowd, you could hear him going, "Oh, meetings and sobriety and this," and he's all, "Nope, it's connection."
Mm.
And what I have learned in my 22 years of being clean and sober is I'm that way because of the connections I have made inside and outside of the rooms, right? Like hanging out with, like you guys said, like minded people, right? Because you know that saying or that quote that says you're a direct reflection of the 5 people you hang out with most, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And, 22 years ago, well, one, we wouldn't be here. And two, if you saw me coming, you'd be like, get in the house, lock the door, Max is coming by because we don't know what's going to happen, right? I mean, not that I was you bad, but you know what I mean? I'm a drug addict and I'm going to try to manipulate you either out of food or some money or whatever. And, but I love the journey that we're all on, right? Like connecting and you guys here helping my audience understand what it's like to be a couple that's going through recovery, right? And how Tiffany helps. But you do the same thing, Chris. Like people don't understand. I know you do, but it's like it takes a village, it takes a team to do this, right? Because I had tried so many times, like, I don't need your help. And then when I'm sitting on a bunk in jail again, going, well, that didn't work. How am I going to do this, right? And then I get all the community, and they're going, hey, dude, we can do this. This is how you got to do it to be better. And I'm like, but I finally had enough and said, well, this is not what I want, right? But the part I want you guys to explain too, what I like to tell the audience is, right, lean into the suck, right? Because there's lessons you're going to learn no matter how good the journey is going or how tough it gets. If you have this perspective of, I'm going to learn something, especially from a tough situation, right? It's only going to make me a better person,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
How has that been for you guys?
You want me to start?
Leaning into the suck, or yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I have a tank top that says "Embrace obstacles." Right.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I teach my people, and I have a team that actually helps me coach my people now. That's how big my mission has grown. But it's all about changing the way you look at things. And I love what Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so my whole book is about participating in your own rescue and looking at life happening for you instead of to you, and taking full responsibility for every area of your life, because that is so powerful. And that gets a little controversial, uh, especially women, I think, when you talk about sexual abuse. But in my book, I was raped and I told my part in it. And that empowers me. It
Mhm.
doesn't
Right.
it doesn't give the person who did something to me off the hook,
Right.
but it gives me power to take responsibility and change and heal whenever I take responsibility for, I shouldn't have been drinking. I was blacked out drunk. It's not about letting them off the hook. It empowered me
Mhm.
to move
Right.
forward. And so that's taking something that would be considered bad or traumatic and looking at it as what did I learn? What can I do different? How how did this, help me grow? If this hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am. Now
Right.
I get to share my pain is my purpose. You can flip it all
Right.
day long. And so when you have someone kind of help you and guide you in changing the way you look at things, and then what you focus on grows, and what you think about you bring about, you start being very intentional about what you are thinking about and what you are focusing on. And
Yep.
that's what I guide people to do. And when they start focusing on their wins throughout the day, life happening for them, the obstacle being the way or a growth opportunity, everything else kind of falls into place.
Yeah. But I love that, right? Because I say this in a loving way, right? That was one of the biggest slaps in my face ever when a mentor said, Max, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And I'm like, what the hell do you mean? What do you mean it's happening for me? Right. But
It doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it. Like, what's your take on that, Chris? Right? Because I know as the man in the family, right? Like I know you probably can relate. There's probably times like this life happening for me is not working right now. Like I'm getting pissed off, right?
Yeah, you could definitely do that. But what I've come to realize is our culture is addicted to comfort. And that's a dangerous place to be. And
Right.
so I used to think the same things like, oh my God, why does this have to always happen? This thing always happens to me. Oh, it's this time of year. Hell, in fact, when we were about to jump on this podcast, I was stuck at the pharmacy. Tiffany was stuck in carpool. We came in with like 5 minutes. Tiffany was panicking, like, oh my God, we got to get all
Because
this
I
set
don't
up.
want to be late.
And I'm like, hey, remember our whiteboard says everything's perfect.
And I also have written over here, in my world, nothing ever goes wrong.
So
Literally right there.
Exactly. And so we have these little reminders all over. And at first it used to feel cheesy. But what I've realized is when you lean into the cheesy, that's typically when things change.
Yep.
And so I tell everyone this story that I work with, that about 5 years ago, I was outside doing some personal development stuff, reading the Bible and praying and things like that. And I just came to the realization that life sucked in that moment. And it didn't look like it was going to get any better. But I had been learning that the suck is only sucky if that's the definition you attach to it.
Right.
And so I was sitting outside in my quiet spot, and I remember saying, I'm going to give myself permission to think differently. And I literally grabbed a make-believe sack and put my thoughts inside that sack. And I stood up and I put that make-believe sack on a shelf.
Right.
Because I needed to attach an action to the new belief.
Right.
And so that was symbolic for me. And I said, if I want to pick that way of thinking up later, I can. But right now, it's not serving me.
Right.
I don't know where this thinking differently is going to take me. I just know that I need to start. And that's what kickstart the personal development journey, and looking at life through a different lens. It's not that shit doesn't happen. It's the
Wow.
meaning we decide to attach to it. And so now it's almost like a game for me. At least that's what I've turned it into. When something crappy comes my way, I'm like, oh shit, something amazing is about to happen. Let me find that instead of focusing on how bad it feels in that moment.
And we've been
Right.
practicing this for so many years now. It's because we have literally rewired our brain. And that's what we help people do. So it is our automatic response now. Everything always works out for us. Everything is
Right.
perfect. What did this make possible? What did I learn? And so we've trained ourselves. But it's taken a few years.
Yeah.
And sometimes I still get a little pissy when he's like, everything's perfect. Like,
Like you did a minute ago. I'm like, hello,
like,
watch out, guru. No.
but I mean, we snap out of it quick. But just knowing that you can literally rewire your brain with consistent action and working on how you think, because I was stuck in a victim mindset, and there's a lot of women who are.
Yeah, and it feels so foreign and cheesy, for a lack of better words, when you say those things to yourself. But here's the cold hard truth. You're talking to yourself all day, every day anyways. So why not change the narrative?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, right? That's So when I first got sober, my sponsor would have me write like a positive affirmation and stick it on my bathroom window, right? Because I was Mr. Negative Nancy. Like, yeah, you want to talk about like, or I would go from 0 to 60 and be angry. The world sucks. I want to blow it up and get out of my way. And he started have me start a gratitude journal, right? Because you're so right. And even science has proven if you do stuff like that, right, where you frame things like, or for instance, doing a gratitude journal, which I do 3 things in the morning, right when I wake up, 3 things at night, sometimes more, but that's how I started, and 3 things at night before I go to bed, right? Neuroscience, and I even saw it on YouTube. It shows you actually build new neural pathways that will, I call them the positive pathways, right? Because you'll start looking at yourself in a different light. You'll start looking at the world in a more positive light. And you guys know my story, but thank God for that gratitude journal, right? Because 9 years ago, when I would lose a sister, a brother to suicide, and then my mom 6 months later, I still did that gratitude journal, even though part of my brain was going, "You ain't got nothing to be grateful for." And I go, "What do you mean?" I go, "My family wants me here." Okay, that's one, right? My family actually let me help take care of my mom, right? Because if I was still in my addiction, she would have did. My family would have did what my mom did when I was in my addiction. When there was family parties, right? She'd tell my cousin, "Don't tell them." Right. And then I'd see him months later. "Hey, how come you weren't at the party the other day?" And I'm like, "Oh, oh." I'd go back to my mom's house all pissed. "Why did you tell him?" "Because I don't want you there when you're like that." And I'm like, but I was able to switch that up, right? And give my mom 14 years of sobriety before she passed, and to help take care of her the last 6 months of her life, and, be there for my siblings. And, now I get to be there as a grandpa and a father and a husband. And, most important for me as a friend, like to you guys, like you guys are my friends, right? Like there was a long time where I didn't have friends, right? Because I had burned those bridges. And
Yep.
and that's serious. Like I said, that's one example. Like, but if Max, like I even had dealers tell me, "You're cut off, dude. You're done. Like there's something wrong with you, bro."
We
Like,
don't want your money anymore.
yeah, we don't exactly like, yeah, go somewhere else, but you're just too off the charts right now. And, I can always, go, what if this or that, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? Because back in high school, I should have saw the signs. But like you guys, I believe everything happens for a reason. I was supposed to go through that, right? I learned so many lessons. And it's like you guys know, being an entrepreneur, right? It's not for the faint of heart. I think that's one of my biggest life lessons is learning how to get back up and go, "Wow, that hurt. That sucked. What am I going to do now?" Right. And I can't go hide. I can't go, "I'm going to go to the bar and have a drink." Or,
Well, you could. You
you
could.
could, right.
Yeah, but you're choosing not to.
Yeah.
I could, but then my wife would get some of her big Samoan friends that she knows, and she goes, "I will hunt you down. I will take you to some cabin out in the middle of nowhere and chain you to a bed till you're sober again." I'm like, "Well, honey, you won't ever have to worry about that because I don't think about it." I mean, once in a while, it's funny because I'll go to the grocery store and I'll see these new alcohols, right? Like the Ciroc apple vodka. And I'm like, "Where the hell was this when I was drinking, man?" I'm like, right. And she'll grab me and say, "Let's go." But, you know, I like my life, like I said, because I'm so honored that you guys came here to be with me today and share your story, because I think the world needs to know it, that they're not alone. Because right, there could be a husband out there that's going, "Man, I'm watching my wife drink herself to death," or like in Tiffany, I'm watching my husband, work his butt off and then come home and drink all day. And how do what would you be your best advice if someone is going through that at this moment and they reached out to you after the podcast? What would you tell them?
I want to start with that one because I was actually thinking that what you were saying. So I'll give you a personal example. So when Tiffany and I first got married, I thought she hung the moon. I was completely infatuated. And then she pulled the rug out from underneath me. And I was like, "God, you tricked me. Why did you do that?" But he knew that we needed each other. Like she's specifically built for me and I'm specifically built for her. And so to those people who are in a marriage and you feel like you've lost that spark and that connection, it's there. You just have to tap into it. And here's how I did it.
We hired marriage coaches.
Well, yeah.
We did.
Right.
That's right. So one of the things I started doing was I remembered that what you focus on expands and what you think about, you bring about, right? It's the
Right.
RAS, the reticular activator system in your mind.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to train that reticular activator system to bring to me what I want. All right. So in the mornings, I used to think about how quick can I get out of here? And I was thinking about how disgusted I was with Tiffany, how terrible I thought our marriage was, and all of this negative stuff. Right. And
Right.
so what did my mind do? It found evidence to support what I thought. One day I got sick and tired of that, and I said, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to focus on the reasons why I love her,
There we
what
go.
drew me to her in the first place. And so I was standing in the kitchen, instead of trying to figure out how to get out, I was thinking about, oh, I never have to do laundry. I mean, it's simple stuff, guys, simple. I never have to do laundry. When I come home, there's always food, whether it's bought or she's made it. Now, this is when she's in her addiction. She still did those things. She still took care of business. She still took care of, the kids to the best of her ability, right? Here's another cool thing that she did. She would put makeup on and perfume on and look really presentable no matter what kind of day she had before I would walk in, because she knew I would like that. And now that may not be y'all's thing, but what I'm getting at is this. What you think about, you bring about. And if you want to
Yeah.
re-spark that and you have 1% hope in that person that you married, you find those little magical moments and you start thinking about those. And pretty soon, your mind is going to find more and more evidence of why you love that person and then how you can help serve them and champion them through this hard time.
That's amazing, because I believe it's like when you're getting ready to buy your dream car, right? And don't you ever notice, like, you see that car everywhere and you almost go, well, everyone's got one. I don't want that one anymore because I've
Yeah,
been thinking, right?
exactly.
Everybody's got the truck I want. Like, I'm not doing it. But it's true though. Our minds are so powerful and we can use them for good, right? And that's awesome, Tiffany, because I'm the type of recovering person that when I'm in my addiction, I don't care how I look, right? I don't, it doesn't matter. Like, and no one matters. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, right?
That's why it was so prolonged for me to recover, because I was rationalizing and justifying because I still did all those things,
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So that made my drinking career just last a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's true though, right? Like, I run into that all the time, especially like the older people that I have had the pleasure of working with, right? They're like, I didn't lose anything. I don't have a problem.
Mhm.
I go, really? But you're in treatment, right? And your wife is ready to walk out the door, or your dad's ready to kick you out, or your girlfriend doesn't want you back. And I have to make them think like, yeah, well, that's true. I worked but yeah, but when you got home, you checked out, you started drinking, or you left your family hanging because you were at the bar all night, or whatever the case may be. But right, that's why that's kind of like who I go after, right? Are the high performers, the CEOs, and the executives that say, I don't have a problem, right? I'm not going to go on Facebook and say anything, but behind the scenes, they're like saying, I need help bad, right?
Yeah.
How do I keep everything together? Because I'm doing it, right? I'm successful. But we all know, right, that house of cards will come crashing down one day, right?
Mhm.
But that's why I love mixing my recovery with personal development, right? Because there's always something new to learn, and there's always something that you can do to be 1% better than you were the day before,
Mhm.
right? And if I keep that perspective, I might have had a rough day, but I'm like, I can look back and go, well, I'm still 1% better than I was yesterday, so I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that adds up. I think people don't understand the power of 1%. Like, you do 1% every day, that's 365 percentage points that you've gone up in a year's time, right?
Right.
I mean, it's a brilliant concept, and it's easy. Like, everyone thinks they've got to have this long list of things that they need to check and do all this stuff.
Right.
Just do one thing, man. One thing.
Yeah, small steps forward daily will lead to big results, right? And I learned that 1% actually, well, from a group that I belong to, but this guy, Sam, he was a Persian guy, right? Out in Venice, that used to be big in the fitness world, big, kind of. But he would take guys in off the street and go, "I'm going to teach you how to um, get into fitness and build your own business." Right. So like he would have guy and he would tell them, "You're going to sleep on my couch and I'm going to teach you how to
Wow.
build your own business in fitness. Right. You're going to get in shape." And that's what he would tell him. He goes, "You just need to focus on being 1% better every day. Because if you start in January, like you said, Chris, come December, I can say, well, wow, man, I'm 365% better than I was yesterday."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had one guest that was on here before that goes, "Nah, the math is wrong, Matt." So he started getting into this calculation. I said,
Doesn't
I
matter.
go, and he was messing with me, and he was right though. I go, "Dude, just follow me, all right, please." He goes, "All right." I just please, like, let's boost the confidence of the audience here,
That's
right?
the purpose of what this. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Let's not get
I
in the
said,
weeds.
yeah, because a lot of us are not math people, and you're talking to your host. This is one, and I go, "Let me tell you, like, math is." I took statistics in college and almost thought about relapsing because it was that tough. And he's all, "Really?" He goes, "That's so easy." And I go, "Yeah, don't even start, bro." So, but it was funny because, right, because that's all you guys have said it throughout this whole thing, right? Like your marriage doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to have good days and bad days, right? But if you're working together on making it a great marriage, right, those little challenges are going to be nothing if you think about it, right?
Mhm.
So, Tiffany, right, because I haven't told anybody, but I did get certified as a personal trainer, and I'm going to do the nutrition thing next, right? Because I want to incorporate that, but I also want to collaborate with other people. Like if I have a woman that I'm going to
Yeah.
send them your way, right? Like
Yeah.
you need to talk to Tiffany, you know what I mean? And but as I've learned on this journey, and I'm sure you did too when you were going through treatment, right? Like when my body started to feel better, my mind followed, right? So that's I'm like I have to get better, and I'm holding myself accountable here and telling on myself I need to get my butt in the garage and start working out again. Don't use my back as an excuse, but it's true though, right, Tiffany? When you get your body moving and you're feeling fit, and you don't have to run for 2 hours on stadiums like Tiffany does, everybody.
No,
But
that's not
but if you
necessary.
if you get that, your mind usually follows, right? Because I
Yeah.
hate this world of doctors that goes, "Oh, you don't feel good, here's a pill. Oh,
Yeah.
you got anxiety, here's a pill. Oh, a pill for everything." But I'm like, I agree with you guys, right? Because I watched. I mean, they're in great shape. Everybody, trust me, they're in great shape. Like I believe in getting your body moving, and because before I had surgery, I went through that 75 hard challenge, and I felt great. And how do you? Okay, I'm going to ask Tiffany first. So you get someone that comes into your
Mhm.
program, and they look at you like, "Tiffany, I got to work out. I don't want to work out." Let's
Yeah.
skip that. Let's tell me how to get better without doing that because I know that happens
Yeah,
sometimes,
so
right?
I love helping women who are beginners. They've convinced themselves that they can't work out. They hate working out. They have hormone issues, pre or postmenopausal. Um, they are just stuck in maybe the good enough trap and they know something could be better. They just need a little support, accountability, and direction. And on my logo in the back, it says transform your mind and your body will follow.
Hmm.
And although I've been in fitness for 25 years, my workouts work. People do them at home or the gym with minimal equipment. I've written over 55 workouts for my client. I have clients who've stayed with me years. And what I offer is like therapy with your workout. So I
Yeah.
will not coach a client without doing mindset work. And I have
Right.
community, we have small group meetings. I have a blueprint, a workbook that goes with my program. I have a meal plan. So I am giving you all the tools. You just have to drive the car,
Mm.
Right.
right?
Right.
So I love working with people who have zero experience because I am confident that I can make them confident enough to love working out.
Hmm.
Right.
Those are my favorite women to work with because coming out of recovery or healing or trying to overcome trauma or some sort of addiction, what's next? What
Right.
do I do next? I know I'm supposed to find my worth from within. I know self-care is important, but what does that look like? What does that look like? How do I connect my head and my heart? And the tools that I share, it's not like any other program. And that is what I help women learn how to do is self-worth, confidence, and learning how to put themselves first without guilt or shame.
Mm,
Right.
yeah.
And the workout is a small piece, but it's a big, but it's small. It's
Right.
one part of the program, but then everything falls into place.
And I think you have to work on the mindset first, right? Like, I mean, Chris and I had a conversation in the beginning, and when you're going through struggles, like I would tell him, man, this shit sucks. Excuse my language. But you know what I mean? Like, I never thought this would happen. And when you blah, 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 but I could have used it as an excuse to go, you know what? Nice meeting you, Chris, but I'm off and I'm going to go do what I'm going to go do. Right.
But
And
it's nice to have a safe space to share,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Well,
right?
that's like
Yeah.
sponsorship. That's like going to therapy,
That's
right? Or
right.
coaching
Yeah.
is like if you know that you have someone you can go to that you can be, like you said, like we talk about, open, honest, and vulnerable
Without
without
judgment.
judgment,
Mhm.
it makes it a whole lot better, right? And it makes it easier to want to change when you know you have that kind of
And then
support.
when you know you don't feel alone, and when we've been very blessed to help some other, couples too, and to know that couples can come to us and not feel judged or ashamed, and we're not going to pick sides, and we're going to give them tools to reconnect. Because yes, it sounds good. Oh, connections, that's what you need, and all the things that he shared. But how do you do that? There
Right.
is actually a roadmap, and that's why I think finding someone to help you or coach you is the best investment that you can ever make. Like what
Oh.
you do, Max, like what we do. I have hired a coach for everything, and it is the best investment if you were wanting to level up and come out of whatever is holding you back.
That's right.
Yeah. I couldn't even like before I started the podcast, right? When I've told you guys about the mastermind I belong to. And one of the biggest things was start a podcast and write a book. Well, I'd already written a book once. So I was like, okay, I got that one down. I have to try it. And I remember when I was starting to put together my private practice, and put the website and all that, my coach and mentor, I thought I would be slick and mention, oh, I'm going to start a podcast, right? Like, and thinking he would not even think anything about it, right? Oh, next meeting, how's that podcast going, Max? And I'm like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
learning how to do this, right? So he let me go, and then it was like, I want to say a few weeks before he passed of COVID in 2021, we met again, and he asked that a question, and this gentleman never cussed, but he's like, "How's that podcast coming, Max?" And I said, "Well, I'm learning how to edit." And all of a sudden, Ekman, Max, perfect doesn't mean done. Just do it. And I was like, okay.
That's a coach.
Yeah. And I
That's a
said,
coach.
you're my first guest. And he was my first guest. And here I am over 220 something episodes later because, right, I listened to what he said, right? I was trying to be a perfectionist, having excuses. That would have been like my, getting sober. Like, are you sober today? Oh, no, you know what? I got to try this drink first and then I'll come back later. Or I got to try this drug. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I would have gave excuses. And I'm glad he pushed me to do this, because I wouldn't be here with you guys today having this wonderful conversation about not only recovery and marriage and helping others, but just having two friends like you that are out there trying to help other people live a better life. And because that's the kind of people I like to hang out with now. That's
Yeah. So if you're listening and there's something on your heart that is big and scary that you need to do, what we need the most, we resist the most. So rip the Band-Aid off and do it scared. That's what I
yeah.
tell my people. Rip the Band-Aid off, do it scared, run towards fear. That's what we do.
Well, the becoming is in the doing. And so I think society's got it backwards. They think they've got to, study and do this and prepare and get everything right. And then they're so scared to actually take action and step out on faith. But where the magic happens
Is in the unknown.
it's in the unknown. And it's the doing. Like the reveal is the best part. It's jumping into that scared. Like when I first started my business in 2005, I didn't know what that looked like, but I just did it. And it was the most freeing experience ever. Like, I was scared to death, like scared of rejection, scared of how am I going to do this? You know, how many, but I didn't know.
Right.
And that's the cool thing is like, you get to figure it out along the way. Like you get to make mistakes because if you don't learn. You don't learn how to pivot. Like that's the fun spot, you know, like the fun part is when you just step into the unknown and let it evolve. Of course, you know, you got to take action, but you know, there's a part that you don't know that's coming and it lands. Like when you learn it hard, it sticks. Right?
That's what I love, right? Like Napoleon Hill, like when I read his book, like for instance, talk about going out on faith, right? His right-hand man, I can't even remember his name now, but he wanted to be like Thomas Edison's right-hand man. So he left home with the clothes on his back, jumped on a train, snuck on a train, went out to Thomas Edison, walked in his office, right, and said, I'm going to be your right-hand man. And Edison said, oh, really? All right, I'm going to have you do this, right? And he knew. So he started at the bottom, but this guy ended up being, because what he thought about became, right?
Yeah,
like you know, he found his purpose. And if you've ever read it, right? I've done it, the definition of purpose, right? I think me doing that 10 years ago has led me to this moment, right? And things keep, like for me in my career as a substance abuse counselor, every job got better, bigger places, you know, more responsibility, right? And they always say, watch what you pray for. But but I always say, watch, you know, if you want patience, don't pray for it, right? Because let me tell you, God will give it to you, but you're not going to like how he does it, right? But I love that, Chris, because, you know, if we just put our minds, if we, you know, you can have, I'm not saying you can't have it, right? You can have big goals and big dreams, right? But like you guys are saying, like if you can break it down into simple steps every day, you'll get there, right? But what happens, I think you guys agree too, we put those big goals out there, we don't have a plan, and then we don't get it, and we get down on ourselves, and we're like, well, I don't want to do that then. That sucked, right? But, right, like, little do they know, right? They're part of my team for being on as guests today, right? Because these are my community. These are the people that I love, right? Because, you know, I have some big goals. I'm getting some big guests. And some of you know, like what you guys are doing, like Andy Purcell is one of my favorites, right? Yeah, he's brutal. Like he tells it like it is. But I hear, you know, when I heard his journey, right, where he says, my first 10 years in business, I only made $50,000. You know, when I was just getting into being an entrepreneur, I'm like, wow, shoot, I don't want to do that, right? Like I'm 40 something years old. I don't want to take that long. But if you listen to the story, right, he talks about you just don't quit on yourself, which you guys have talked about. You haven't quit on yourselves, you haven't quit on each other, and you have found a way to make this work, and not just work, but to thrive in your marriage and have a great life, right? Because
I mean, it's kind of like ridiculous how much we're into each other. I mean, that's what comes with like when you really learn, when you work on yourselves and you the sobriety definitely helps, but we're constantly working on ourselves. And then when we come together, we get to share the journey of personal development, and connection is true and genuine.
Yeah, and that's not coming from ego. That's coming from lived experience because we've had the suck on the other side.
Yeah.
And she's right. In fact, we had that very conversation this morning. It's like we try to outgive each other, you know, unconsciously, where, you know, every time I compliment her, it makes her want to do more. Every time I champion her, it makes her rise up. Right. And the same for me. When she champions me, it makes me want to do better. And so we're constantly back and forth. And that's what, you know, any of your listeners who are kind of in that struggle right now, that's what you get to look forward to. If you keep fighting, like she's not kidding. Like it's kind of ridiculous, kind of what we got going on right now. But
we used to fight really bad.
Oh yeah.
Like physically, verbally, I would like want to divorce them
all the things, right?
I mean, yeah. So if we can come from that to where we are by working on ourselves, anybody can do it.
Anybody.
Absolutely. Well, that's like I said, Andy one of the things he says that I love is he goes, the best revenge on anybody or any situation or anybody, any person is personal excellence.
Mm.
If you work on being the best you can be, no one can say anything they can, but it won't matter because you're the one doing the work and you're going to see the results, right? And well, we know, like, look at all the greats out there. What I mean, like Steve Jobs, right? He focused on being the best, you know, computer guy or whatever in the world, right? And then there's like all the other guys, like Jeff Bezos, right? Started out in a little room in his house. Look at it, he's like the richest dude in the world, right? But that's the kind of focus, if you're listening, everybody, is what they're talking about, right? You keep doing things every day and you keep refining it, you keep getting better, and you take the lumps once in a while, right? Because it's the same thing. I relate to you guys. Like my wife and I are each other's best friend, right? And it keeps getting, we have our struggles, and usually it's me because I'm not doing what I said I was going to do. But I'm learning that, you know what I mean? But in reality, like, she is my best accountability partner, right? And I don't get mad if she goes, "Hey, I see you doing this. You need to switch this up," or, and she doesn't get mad if I go, "Well, I think you should do this because I think this might make you feel better if you try this," right? And I think we're like, I always say I'm in the married up club, right? Because I have someone that loves me despite my past, despite my insecurities, despite my failures, right? They got my back 100%.
Mhm.
And that's what I hear with you guys, right? You guys have each other's backs. And that's why it's such an honor. And, I kept pushing you guys. When are you guys coming on? When are you guys coming on? Hello,
Sure.
I'm waiting,
Today's
right? But I knew it, hey, life happens, right? And I'm glad you guys are here. But
Well, we didn't really get to get into a lot of it, but we share very vulnerably on social media. We live our lives out loud and we
Mhm.
share everything to give others hope and to let them know what's possible and to share our journey of what we're actually going through and how we're going to overcome. I wrote about it in the book, but that's what we use our social media platform for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
See? And that's how you got to do it sometimes. Live it large, live it loud and large. Like recovery. Like, I have no qualms when people are on Facebook going, I've got a year sober, clean from heroin. Like, I'm like, I'll be your biggest cheerleader,
Yep.
right? Because a lot of the times I'm still in the, and I will always be the one who fights to break that stigma, right? Because if you ask people, I like, one day I asked someone, goes, you're a recovering drug addict? I go, yeah, I used to stick a needle in my arm all the time. And they go, no way. No way. I go, yeah, I can show you a picture. And I saw you a picture of my butt. Right? I go,
Yeah.
and then they go, holy moly. And I go, yeah, see, if you want to change, you can accomplish anything you put your mind to,
Yeah.
and find the people that are going to support you. Right. But not only in the good times, but like we've all talked about today, right? That are going to kick you in the butt and go, hey, you're going left. You need to come back right and get back on track. Right. Because we need that support.
Mhm.
Right. And so that leads me to the question, and Tiffany kind of answered it already, right? We're going to start with fearless.
Mm.
What does fearless, I don't care who goes first, right? But what does fearless mean to you guys today? And how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
I already went. So
No, you go ahead. I want to hear you go.
So I emphasize running towards fear. So fear to me now, I can't say I have true fear that paralyzes me anymore. So fear to me looks like a growth opportunity, something I want to step that's going to make me better. And I
Right.
wouldn't say I'm fearless, but fear doesn't paralyze me anymore.
Mm,
I love it. Because
yeah.
fear can be brutal. Like, I know that parent, like, I'm not moving. I'm
Well,
not
I
doing
know how to
anything.
recognize it in my body, and I know how to tell myself that I am safe, and I've learned ways to combat the physical feeling that fear can bring, and I have enough evidence in my life of doing things scared and how it worked out for me, and
Mm,
that's what I tap into.
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I think it's just an indicator, not a dictator.
Yeah. There you go.
Fear used to run my life. Fear of all types of things. And so when I feel that feeling come on, I have done enough personal development work to understand that's a little light going off and saying, okay, what definition do I want to place on this? Because I
Right.
get to choose. And so whenever a moment comes up and I feel that in my body, I'm in tune with it now. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but you get to become that way if you do enough work. You can literally
Mhm.
feel it, shut it down, be the observer in your mind and go, okay, what is this communicating to me?
Right.
And what do I get to look forward to when I face it?
Right. I love it, right? Because not everybody has that switch, right? Like I know us do, and that's why I brought you guys on here because I want people to be able to go, oh, I love what they said, right? Like, okay, I'm afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm going to learn something from this situation, and two, it's going to make me a better person for doing it, right?
Yeah.
And
And then worst case scenario, play it all the way out. What is the worst thing that could possibly happen? Because usually it's not that bad. You're probably not going to die.
Well, and we
absolutely,
always attach this story, this narrative to this feeling of fear. And here's the truth. It's very rarely true.
right.
Maybe even 1% or less. And every time I have stepped into that, it's always benefited me every time.
Well, here's my thing. I said, when you do what you're talking about, both of you, enough, you're not going to be fearless, but you're going to learn to fear less.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then courage kind of takes
Mhm.
over and you go, right. Because one day I will do it just to try it again, but I maybe not 2 hours of stair running, but I will try it again because I want to get on Facebook and go, Tiffany, I did it for at least 30 minutes. Well, I have a traumatic experience for that. Just real quick, you guys. So um, I went to school to get my firefighter one certification, right? I wanted to be a fireman when I was my first marriage. And we lived exactly a mile from the high school that had stadiums, right? So one day they had locked the gate. So I climbed the fence. I get up there and I do my 20 or 30 minutes, right? And I was climbing back over and I slipped and fell into the bushes. Let's just say I got lucky that one of those didn't go somewhere it shouldn't have been, right? The branches of the bush. And so I cut myself up from like my buttocks all the way down behind my knees. I'm bleeding, right? And I'm going, I had to run home, right? I didn't have a cell phone at the time, and I'm running home and I'm sweating and I'm going, oh, this is getting worse. And then I show my wife and she says, jump in the shower, I'll clean it up. And I'm like, oh, but anyway, that's why when I think of stadiums, I don't know why I think about that, right? Because not every place locks up their stadiums that you can go in there and go do it. But my hat's off to you, Tiffany. That's one thing I love about you is that when I see that, I'm like, man, like, see, I tell friends, I go, that's what you need to do, right? You may not do as long as her, but do something that's going to make you uncomfortable,
Yeah.
So
right?
let's coach
And
Max right quick. Max, you're allowing one past experience to dictate your present and future. Now,
uh,
another question for you. Have you ever walked up a set of stairs since that time?
I do it every day because our downstairs, I
You're
got to go
good.
do the
Boom, you're
laundry,
good.
right?
Yeah. I mean, but that's how trauma is stored in your body. It's a real thing.
Yeah,
Stop it.
yeah.
I don't know if you remember, Tiffany, but when you were on last time and when you were doing that running, I said, I give pro bono counseling to people that run like that, right? Like there's something
Crazy.
wrong with you guys. But like I was
Crazy.
telling those Peace Brothers, I go, hey, I give free pro bono counseling. And it was funny, Kyle, who the one with cerebral palsy said, well, I don't need it, but my brother might need it because he's the one that pushes me or pulls
Yeah.
me
Well,
or
I just use my crazy. I've just turned it into something else. Use my powers for good.
all right, there
But
you go. Oh, that will lead us in the next question, happiness. And you guys, well, Tiffany knows I put a Y in it. Now, Chris, knowing I put a Y in happiness, what does that mean to you? And how does that show up in your life on a daily basis now?
Wow, that's a great question. Happiness. Well, I think happiness is something we get to choose. Okay. Because the world is and life is going to continually come at you no matter what. I mean, even when Tiffany and I are doing all the things and checking all the boxes, there's still moments in time where a curveball is thrown. Like we were talking earlier about my family dynamic. Like, what? Like you were even shocked. Like, I know these people. What in the world? And so, happiness is something we get to choose. it's not like a destination, right? Like you
Right.
get the opportunity to, like what we've been talking this whole time, to attach a definition to it. And so when something like that happens, you can either choose to allow it to control you, or you can learn
Excuse me.
from it. And then what helps it stick for Tiffany and I is, not only do we learn it, but we try to pass it on to other people, because we know that there's so many people out there that are hurting and broken, whether it's individuals or couples who come to us and just like, hey man, we want this connection. How do we build that happiness?
Right.
And so we get the opportunity to teach them what that looks like.
I love it.
So I don't know if that answered your question, but
Absolutely.
that's how
Absolutely.
I look at it.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, that will lead me into asking you guys if so. We could keep going, right? Because I could sit here and talk to you guys all day
I
long.
know, I know.
I think our
It's
kids
been a,
are hungry.
yeah, it's been a great. I know you're a couple hours ahead, so they're probably going, "I want to eat, mom and dad. Like, hurry up."
They're like, "What's for dinner?"
But I want to ask you guys, okay, audience members out there, men, women, or whatever couples out there are listening and they want your help. How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I love what you do with this podcast, and I see what you post on Facebook, always trying to lift people up, and you have this mission. So we want to give back to your audience too, and this is kind of crazy, but I want to do it. So we're offering a recovery reset strategy call. Okay. So this is a one-on-one call. And if you are, you know, a woman and you are wondering like what's next for recovery, because I've helped some people who have come out of recovery and they're like, okay, now it's time for me to level up. I need some direction, some
No.
guidance. What's next? I want to do a Zoom with you, no pressure. Just I want to give you some clarity, support, maybe just have a conversation about what next steps could be, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And
Right.
then for us together, we really have wanted to reach more couples that maybe need to overcome what we have already overcome. And we want to offer the same Zoom for couples. So all you have to do to get it on Facebook, I'm Tiffany Owen on Facebook. You just have to DM me the word reset, and I will reach out to you, and we'll get that set up. And then Chris,
The
well,
same.
and Instagram, I'm Coach Tiffany Owen. You can also DM me the word reset. I'll know exactly where it came from because I'm just doing it for this show. And my website is coachtiffanyowen.com. And then my book, Wounded to Warrior, you can get it on Amazon. And this is
Right.
my story, but it's also tools that I use for with my coaching of how I overcame a victim mindset.
I
And I'm
love it.
easy. I'm on Facebook, Chris Owen, Facebook. I got the little blue check mark. I'm meta certified or
Yeah,
whatever you
no
call it.
S, it's OWEN.
Yeah,
And
CHRISOWEN, if
No
it
win.
helps. Longview, Texas. I'm Chris Owen 298 on Instagram.
I love it. Well, like I said, you guys, I knew this would be off the charts awesome. I love you guys. This has been a great time. Thank you for joining me today. But as Tiffany found out, right, you guys are not quite off the hook just yet. Now I get to ask you my favorite question that I ask of all my guests. And it goes like this, and you can answer it in any order. But Chris and Tiffany, what is the one piece of advice you could give my audience to help them grow as human beings and become better people?
What? You
Go
want
ahead,
me
baby.
first? So
Smart man.
what we didn't talk about today, and I want to touch on it, and I'll end with this: integrity with yourself, having integrity with yourself, following through with the commitments that you make to yourself, are how is the basis of self-worth and self-love and self-discipline. And create, so this is a tool that I'll give you. Create what we call a power promise. And that's one promise, one commitment that's very small, because we got to start somewhere. And most
Right.
people don't have integrity with themselves. They do everything for everyone else. But when
Right.
it comes to themselves, they have good intentions, but they don't follow through. And then your self worth just gets lower and lower. So
Right.
to combat this, what we call a power promise, something very small. It could be drinking water first thing in the morning, making your bed, brushing your teeth, but start with one thing that you can do even on your worst day and follow through with that. And then you build, and then comes self-worth and self-love and more
Right.
integrity with yourself.
Love that. That's
I
good.
love it.
All right. So if I could give your listeners one piece of advice, it was the greatest gift I ever gave myself. It's permission to think differently. You don't have to know where it takes you. You don't have to know how to do it. You just start by giving yourself permission to think differently and acknowledge that your current way of thinking isn't moving you to the person you desire to be.
Oh, like Wayne Dyer says, be open to everything and attached to nothing.
Yeah.
Be
I
open
love it.
to everything and attached to nothing.
I love it. Well, like I said, this has been a great time. I love it. I knew
Thank
you guys. I knew you guys were going to kill it.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for being here. I'm so grateful that you guys took me up on this. But you heard them, everybody. If Chris and Tiffany made you think, if they taught you something, if they made you smile, and my famous, if they made you go, I like that. Please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review so more people can find the podcast. And come join me now on my new YouTube channel. Come like and subscribe so you can actually see and hear us have this conversation.
Yes.
Again, thank you, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. Thank you. This is Matt from the Fearless Happiness Podcast. Until next time.
Are you tired of being weighed down by life's traumas and struggles? Join the Fearless Happiness lifestyle and let us guide you toward a brighter future. Explore our past podcast episodes and get a copy of the Fearless Happiness book to ignite your inner strength. If you or someone you love is battling addiction or facing challenges related to unresolved trauma, know that we are here for you. Visit maxnijst.org, maxnijst.org, and take the first steps toward finding your fearless happiness. Thank you for listening. This has been a production of Fearless Happiness.